Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the EZPZ Show brought to you by Sonic. You can listen to every episode of the EZPZ Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or anywhere else you usually listen to your podcast on. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Now let's get into the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the EZPZ Show, episode 4, is it? Um, Today we'll talk about the U.S. women's national team qualifying for the knockout stage, a little bit of the MLB trade deadline, and a whole lot of SEC preview. Um, I'm Peyton, here with Zack. Caleb can't join us today. Um, well, let's get started. We'll lead things off with the U.S. women's national team qualifying for the knockout stage, where it honestly did not look like they were going to. Player of the match was probably the post of the goal. Without the post, they don't qualify
Yeah,
for the knockout
MVP
round.
right there.
Just no kidding. Just really a subpar performance from the national team in this year's World Cup so far. Just not what we're used to from the U.S. I don't know if it's coaching, just people getting old, the gap closing between women. I don't know, but they really did not look good last night or the other night.
Right. Yeah, it definitely wasn't pretty, but we still got faith in our women. I think at the end of the day, there's just like seeing. I'm trying to think of how to compare it to something that most people would recognize. I don't know. Maybe compare this to like
The Spurs
Well, I
downfall
was gonna.
a
Well, I
few
was gonna
years back.
say like. Well, yeah, actually, I was gonna compare it to the NBA, but I was gonna say like the Nuggets losing the first two games in the first round of the playoffs or something like that, or like the Bucks losing the first two games in the first round of the playoffs. Like we still definitely
I'll
won't
compare
count
it.
them out.
Yeah, I'll compare it to like even Alabama last year in college football. Just not kind of what we're used to seeing from them, but they did find ways to get it done for the most part. Dropped a few games where they probably shouldn't have, but overall got it done.
Right? Yeah. So look at us. We managed to turn women's soccer into football and basketball talk the American way.
um, MLB trade deadline was today, and a whole lot going on. I'll just cover a few things though. Um, Justin Verlander on his way back to Houston. Um, when they first started shopping Justin Verlander, it was kind of I don't want to say an obvious destination for him, but he's been there for years now, and he's comfortable there. Maybe his last year. Wasn't a fan of the trade for the Astros, just due to them giving up two of their better prospects. However, you get Justin Verlander back, you need an ace. Framber Valdez has not been the greatest, or let me rephrase that. Framber Valdez hasn't been Framber Valdez this year without Justin Verlander. So you get him back, a true ace on your staff. That brings you right back into the mix of being a World Series contender. Although they never really stopped being World Series contenders. Half a game back of the Rangers right now, who are also World Series contenders. Also, them. I mean, they stacked up on pitching today by acquiring Max Scherzer, Jordan Montgomery, Aroldis Chapman, and they even got Austin Hedges, the catcher from the Pirates. A really, really good trade deadline for them. I'd look for them to make a second half push uh, and dethrone the Astros from that division. Lastly, the Mets, they just kind of sold everybody that they had. They stole Scherzer, Pham, Verlander. They got rid of it was just a fire sale for the Mets. They did get a bunch of prospects though. It's kind of a weird move for the Mets, being that you poured all this money into Verlander and Scherzer, hoping that you'd win now. Plus, you have guys like Lindor on your team, who they're not getting any younger. So kind of a weird move on their part, but at the end of the day, they do want to win. So the best way to do that is by acquiring great prospects, and which they did. Um, the Mets, they had such a good year last year, and such a disappointing second half, and then just this year has been an embarrassment for both teams in New York, but specifically the Mets. Um, so I don't know where they go from here. Hopefully, they can get it together in the East, though. But that's all I wanted to cover in terms of MLB trade deadline. We can get started on the SEC preview if you'd like, Zach.
Yeah, for sure. No, me not knowing much about baseball, but I could have sworn, like preseason, I feel like Mets were like one of the top teams. Everyone was high on them.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Scherzer and Verlander, two of the better pitchers in MLB history, honestly, two future Hall of Famers, and they acquired both of them. Well, they had acquired Scherzer last year and acquired Verlander this year in free agency. So a lot of people were expecting them to be great pitching, and offensively they have guys like Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor, two great talents in the game of baseball, and both had really the whole team has underperformed.
hmm, hmm.
So
Interesting stuff. And I think I saw somewhere on Twitter today someone tried comparing the Verlander trade to NBA terms. And I guess you can speak if this is true or not. But they said that it would be the same as LeBron getting traded back to the Cavaliers, and in return,
hundred
the
percent,
Lakers received Evan Mobley and Darius Garland.
100%.
Okay.
I think I want to say the two prospects that the Astros traded. I don't know if they were rated there yet, but I did see a reporter today say that they were going to be number one and number two in the Astros farm system come whenever he released the next rankings for the prospects.
Wow.
So, kind of a questionable decision by the Astros, being that you're giving up two of your future pieces for a guy that this might be his last year for.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I guess, obviously different philosophies as far as teams. And looks like the Astros were more in a win now situation. Definitely trying to run it back.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, sadly, to acquire the team they have now, they have pretty much just set the farm
Hmm.
on fire. So, although most of their contributors they have drafted themselves, like Luis Garcia, Framber Valdez, Jose Altuve, Jeremy Pena, Jordan Alvarez, they got for basically nothing from the Dodgers. Alex
Hmm.
Bregman. These are all guys that they've acquired themselves without having to give up any part of their farm. So to see them kind of fire sale a lot of their prospects to get guys that ultimately don't pan out are just kind of disappointing.
All right. All right. Well, I'd say you did a good job covering that. That was well put and a good recap. Love it. As much as I can love
Yep. So
MLB.
yeah, I'd definitely say the Rangers were the winners of the trade deadline though.
Interesting.
So we'll move on though. So last week we did the Big Ten. This week we'll do the SEC preview. We did start from the top and went down to the bottom last week. I think we'll do the opposite this week and start with the bottom.
Works for me. Works for me. You want to start with East or West?
I'll let you decide
I say
that.
let's start with the East because I think the West will be a little bit more all around competitive. Obviously, I think the West. I think both divisions probably have their top two teams, and then like the rest can be up for grabs. Obviously, exempt a
Yep.
couple of teams, but um. Anyways, yeah, we can start with the East if that's all right by all right by you because I think we have a gimme for the worst
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So perennial bottom feeder
Tennessee
Vanderbilt.
man.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah.
Perennial bottom feeder.
So after doing research on the SEC, I kind of take back what I said last week about the Big Ten potentially being the best conference in football. I definitely still think it's the SEC.
It just
Just
means
top to
more.
bottom, I think they're a little bit stronger.
It just
Huh?
means more.
Oh, correct. No, I think just top to bottom, their bottom teams are a little bit better than the Big Ten's bottom
Yeah.
teams. I think the Big Ten has like the top of it is a little bit
Mhm.
stronger. However, the
It's top
middle
heavy.
and the
Yes.
bottom is definitely
You
stronger than
definitely
the
yes, you
SEC.
definitely consider the SEC a lot more balanced. And so yes, in that sense, I'd say they're the better conference. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I get what you're saying. I kind of agree with you. I'm gonna kind of go back and give a little home bias to the SEC here and say I think they're gonna be the best most competitive conference in NCAA football. Well, Big Ten, obviously they got some heavy hitters. They're definitely going to have, like very top heavy conference, but SEC you should
Yeah,
see a lot more competitive play. You'll see teams stealing games from other teams. Um, I feel like there's always one team. Auburn. Auburn always seems to like lose games they shouldn't lose. There's
and win games they shouldn't
yes, and I
win.
mean the same could be said for every team, obviously. So I think in
Oh,
that sense, the
definitely.
SEC is going to be a lot more of an entertaining conference to watch this upcoming season. But
Yeah.
with that being said, I'll let you finish your Vanderbilt. You know the Vanderbilt scoop.
Hate.
Well, yeah, sure.
So the best thing coming out of Vanderbilt is the actual city of Nashville. I visited earlier this year and it was beautiful. Other than that, everything about Vanderbilt is
They got
not
cool
good in
colors.
terms of football. They got cool colors. They got cool, like their baseball hats are cool, the green ones.
It's not cool. The
Um,
Whistler.
oh my gosh, don't even get me started on that guy, dude. The worst thing in baseball is the Vanderbilt Whistler. Just for that, Vanderbilt's in last place in SEC East in football. No, they were last anyway. Before you mentioned that guy, um, when their top three players are putting up numbers like 60 receptions for only 776 yards and 9 touchdowns, and that is their most productive player by a good margin, it's not hard to see why I have them last.
Yeah. Do you have a win total for them? Just to recap what you're saying. I'd like to get your feel. I don't know if you look.
Like a
Yeah, I don't
prediction.
know if you looked at their looked at the schedule. I can give you a rundown really quick of
Yeah, no, I've looked at their schedule. I do have them finishing 4-8.
4-8. Okay, who do you have them? Obviously, you probably got them beating Hawaii and Alabama A&M. You got them grabbing. You have them winning any conference play.
Let me see. So I have them beating
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii, Alabama
Mm-hmm.
A&M,
Mm-hmm.
UNLV. Who
And
else did I have them beating? I think I had them beating Missouri as well.
Missouri. Okay.
Yep, upset an upset.
Yes, nice. Vanderbilt's due an upset for sure. I definitely think they lose one of two, Wake Forest or Las Vegas.
Wake Forest is very
Yes,
good,
yes,
so
absolutely. And plus, you're playing both those games away too. Both of your out of conference. I'm not saying these are like huge. You're not playing against like Wisconsin or anything as your out of conference play, but I mean you're Vanderbilt and you're playing against someone else on their turf. So I hate to use the
yeah.
you're Vanderbilt as an argument, but that's kind of what it comes down to because I genuinely believe that they are probably the worst in the SEC in every single skill group, or I should say position group rather. They're probably the worst in the SEC. Um,
Yeah, without baseball, they'd be kicked out the SEC.
I absolutely.
I mean,
Do they do anything
let's
else?
be real here. You're an SEC school and you're going on the road to UNLV.
And you're probably not the favorite in that game either.
Let me look. I don't see anything.
I doubt the.
But I would imagine they probably would be. I think Clark Lee is a decent head coach. I think he'll pull out what they have, but I just don't think they have much there.
That's fair.
But some players to watch for him. Will Shepard, their receiver, like I said earlier, he had 60 catches for 776 yards and 9 touchdowns. Their most productive player. CJ Taylor, a linebacker, he had 59 total tackles, 7 of which were for loss and 5 pass breakups. He had a good back half of last year, as did the team as a whole, I think. It's pretty small for a linebacker, though. Um, and then Darren Ague, he's a defensive end. He's a younger guy. They're just high on him. I think maybe they're expecting a little bit of a jump. He had 14 tackles last year, 1 sack and 1 pass breakup. Not a whole lot of playing time for him, but I think they expect him to be a pretty big
Mm-hmm.
contributor this year. Some questions I have for the team. I think they're quite literally the opposite of Georgia, which I question everything. And another thing is, how does Clark Lee take another step after a solid ending in 2022? Um, Last year they did beat like a team like Florida. I think that's big for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I believe so too. And I believe one player. I agree with all the players you mentioned. One player I think you may have missed though is Jalen Mahoney. I mean, I'm not sure that's really how you say his last name, but it sounds cool. So it's Mahoney. Um, Pretty solid. He's a returning senior defensive back. He's got buku experience. I think the most experience out of anyone on the team. So that's saying something. So I think he'll be good. As good as you can be on a team like Vanderbilt, but we can. Sorry, we can move on if you'd like.
Yeah, overall, just a punch bag of the SEC. Last year, they beat teams like Kentucky and Florida. I don't think they do that
No,
this year.
I agree. I had them going 3-9, 0-8 in conference play. By the way,
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be very good at all. Um, Moving on, who's your number 6 team in the East?
I have Florida as my number 6 team
Dang it, boy.
in the East.
I'm low on them, but you're even lower.
Yeah, I think there's a good reason to be low on them. Because who's their quarterback?
Graham Mertz, Murda Mertz is what they call him. Can't make this up.
Guess not. And I don't know. Oh, sorry. Nothing against their staff or anything. I honestly think their staff isn't terrible. And I think as far as like you look at the roster up and down, you're like, I mean, like, okay, some really solid pieces. They got really good specialists on the offense. Johnson Jr. and Pearsall.
Pearsall.
I'm sorry.
It's just Pearsall,
Pearsall.
not
Okay.
Pearsall.
Okay, Pearsall. Some pretty good specialists returning for them. They have a decent O line, not the best, not the worst. I believe their tight end play. How do you say this dude's last name? I feel like I'm going to say it one too many times. Like sounds like a spell out of Harry Potter.
I don't know who you're talking about, but
Keon Zipperer.
Zipper? No.
Zipper.
Yeah, he's solid.
Anyways, and that's just their offense. And oh wow. Okay, I thought that name was hard. Princely. They're Princely Umanamilian. Did I come close?
Yeah, I'm not even
Okay,
gonna try.
I didn't know if you knew or not. He should be their best defensive player. But looking at their schedule, they're a little cursed, I have to say, because it's the fact that you start off your schedule having to go play an away game at Utah, kind of it will sum up your schedule. Granted, your next game is against McNeese, and you should win by 60, but the rest of the schedule is not going to be too fun. Like your out of conference play just kind of blows. Minus McNeese and Charlotte. You got to play Utah and Florida State, so you're probably going to lose those 2 games. I think you can beat Vanderbilt. Sure, you may be able to sneak a win in against South Carolina. Sure, maybe. And the only reason I don't know they're playing South Carolina at home. I don't know. A lot of question marks for Florida, considering just the talent they have. Once again, it's like they just can't put it together. It seems like their production doesn't match what's on paper for them.
Yeah. Would you like me to cover Florida now, or you want me to get my thoughts on Florida when I get there?
I don't know. I'd say go ahead and cover your number 6 team. No, go ahead and cover Florida, and then we'll cover.
Okay, yeah, I'll cover Florida. So Florida got a lot of questions around them. I think Billy Napier, the head coach there, I think he's a great recruiter, gets guys there. I don't think he's the greatest X's and O's guy. I also think his system with a guy like Graham Mertz is not going to work. His ideal quarterback in his kind of system would be Anthony Richardson. Like, if you could give him the run of the, say, you can take whoever you want, put him in your offensive system, he would pick Anthony Richardson, who he had last year, and they went 6-6 with. So, yeah, I'm not too sold on Graham Mertz. He completed 57% of his passes last year, which is not great. He's kind of more of a game manager type of quarterback as well, so that's even worse. Threw for 2,100 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. I don't like to see the touchdown to interception ratio that close for a game manager type of quarterback. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't think they're going to be great though. I thought I put my prediction for them. Let me go look at their schedule.
I'll give you each team. I'll tally up in my head. I'll give you each team. You tell me, just fire off if they win or lose. Are you ready? And I'll tell you if they're away or not. I'll at least give you that too.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking at the schedule now, so you don't have to tell me who's away.
All right, Utah
lost.
Oh, I was about to say Florida. Sorry, McNeese.
Loss. I'm kidding. Win.
You lose to McNeese. That counts as 3 losses. We don't make the rules. Anyways, so 1-1 at that point. Then they go to Tennessee. No, I'm sorry. They play Tennessee at home.
Yeah, Tennessee by Justin Gagey type of head kick.
Fair enough. Charlotte.
Win.
For Charlotte?
No, Florida.
Should be a close game. Psych. Kentucky?
Loss.
Interesting. You got them 2-3 at this point, by the way, 5 games into their schedule, and then they go and play Vanderbilt. All right. South Carolina.
Loss.
Okay. Georgia. Moving on. Arkansas.
No comment on the Georgia. Georgia by murder.
Yeah.
Arkansas. Yes. Arkansas wins.
Okay.
Is that what I said? Hang on.
Yeah, go ahead. Obviously, I say fire off quickly, but you can think about it. Give us your thought process.
I'll have Florida win that game. Florida beats Arkansas.
Okay. So I believe at this point you have Florida having won 4 games. McNeese, Charlotte, Vanderbilt, Arkansas.
Correct.
All right, and then LSU.
Loss. But although I will say Florida and LSU is always a weird
game. Missouri.
They'll beat Missouri.
Okay, and Florida State.
That lose badly.
Okay, well, you have them winning 5 games, and that's kind of what I have them at.
Yep. That's about what I think.
Yeah, I think their win total is set. They're projected to get 6 wins. It's not super confident. It's about a pick 'em. But man, that 6th game they win is going to have to. I feel like all the games they're going to play are going to be super close. I say all of them, but obviously all the games that are meant to be close will be close. I don't think, I don't think Georgia's going to be close. I think Florida State will probably be a lot closer than people think. I think LSU will probably be a lot closer than people think. Games like Kentucky, South Carolina, Arkansas, I think those are going to be actual close games. So, you never know. They win all those games. All of a sudden they got 7, 8 wins on their schedule whenever they have one of the hardest schedules.
Yeah, it's doable.
In NCAA. Yeah, it's definitely doable, but I'm like you said earlier. I
just don't like the roster out.
I was about to say. I think you hit the nail on the head too. That Napier seems to. I think he's a good fit for Florida compared to. Remind me of the last head coach's name, Mullins.
I would disagree with that.
You think so?
To an extent.
Well, think about the roster that he left them with. He left Napier with.
Would you say Ed Ogeron wasn't a good fit at LSU?
I think. I don't know. That's kind of weird because of the whole culture thing.
Sure, but he won a national championship.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he won as much as the roster he had won.
I agree with that.
And on top of that, it was kind of a perfect culmination of his staff too. It's what didn't all of his staff just like kablam and move on to bigger and better things. Most of them, at least. Some of them.
Yeah, Joe Brady, Stevens, Minger quit after 2020. Dave Aranda left to go to Baylor. You had a lot of guys leave.
Yeah, so I said, I feel like it was just obviously a perfect culmination of a lot of things that season. Yeah. Not to say Ed, I definitely couldn't have coached.
Ed Ogeron left that roster trash.
Yes. Yes, indeed. But
so Dan Mullen, though, I'll say this about Dan Mullen, was an incredible offensive play caller. Didn't like to recruit, and in college football, sadly, you do have to recruit. That's why I say he was kind of a good fit for him, just because his play calling was so good. He made Anthony Richardson look outstanding when he played. I'm not saying Anthony Richardson's not good. there's questions I have
Mm-hmm.
about Anthony Richardson and the product he puts on the field, not the overall talent of him. Obviously, dude's talented out of this world, but um, we'll see. But Dan Mullen got the most out of his guys that he had. I don't think Sunbelt Billy does that.
Sunbelt Billy, man. I mean, yeah. I guess we'll come back to Florida in probably a couple years, and you never know. All that talent's probably just gonna. I haven't really kept up with the recruiting class or anything, but I mean, obviously, like you said,
They're
they,
like second, I think, or third in
I guess that's
2024.
really not surprising, to be honest. Um,
Yeah, they look on three. Yeah, they're third right now,
yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier
trailing only
too.
to Georgia and Ohio
It's like,
State.
man, it's like the talent's there and the staff is there. It's like they're putting two and two together, and they're like getting three, sometimes five.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, the way I look at it is Brian Kelly was not ever known to be a great recruiter with LSU. However, he
Are you
was known to be
kidding
a
me?
good X's and O's guy. Huh?
Brian Kelly, like the current head coach, like the
Yes.
one that was like doing the dancing and stuff with that one guy who didn't commit to LSU.
He actually did it with two, and one did
Oh,
commit. But
nice.
correct, that guy.
Can't tell me that dude's not a good recruiter. Come on.
I mean, what I'm saying is he was never known to be a great recruiter. However, when you wear the letters LSU across your chest, it becomes a lot easier to recruit. And I mean, look what he did in 1 year with LSU compared to what Billy did with Florida in 1 year. One went 10-3 and won the no, 10-4, 10-4, and won the SEC West. One went 6-6 and lost to Oregon State in a bowl game.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I mean, the coordinators surrounding Napier, I think, are should help him out. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, as a Louisiana guy, I did watch a lot of ULL while he was there, and it just seems like Levi. Oh man, I can't think of his name. It might not have been Levi. I can't think of the quarterback's name,
Oh,
but it
Will
just seemed like he
Levis.
never
It's
developed.
not pronounced Levi's. It's Levis.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think he ever progressed really as a quarterback, and that's what kind of throws me off of Billy Napier. Also, if you have any questions about Billy Napier as a coach, all you got to do is go watch the ending to the Appalachian State game in 2021.
Fair enough. Well, where'd you have Florida ranked on your ranking? You said I had them lower than.
Instead of six, I had him at
Uh,
five. I'm assuming I have 5 and 6 flipped.
it depends. Do you have Missouri at number six?
I
All right.
do.
Continue.
Well, I'll go on with Missouri. I don't think they're great. I don't think Drinkwitz is that guy. I think he had a good flash in the pan first year, but I'm just not sold on him. Missouri was a dead man walking last year. They lost. They even lost to Auburn. So I mean, I'm just not sold on them. I don't think they got overly incredibly better from last year. So, but some notable players are Darius Robinson, the D lineman. He had 5.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 for sacks, which is good for a D lineman. D linemen don't typically get a whole lot of tackles. Tyron Hopper, great linebacker for him, 59 total tackles, 13.5 for loss, and 2.5 sacks. And then I had Ennis Rakestraw Jr., a defensive back for them. He had 4.5 tackles for loss and one interception, but he did have 12 pass breakups. I did have their overall record at 4-8. Um, I just don't think they're great. I have them beating South Dakota, beating Middle Tennessee, losing to Kansas State, beating Memphis, losing to Vanderbilt, losing to LSU, losing to Kentucky, losing to South Carolina, losing to Georgia, losing to Tennessee, losing to Florida, and losing to Arkansas.
That's fair. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I can't remember if I said.
Actually, no, I had them. Who did I have them beaten? Um, I had them winning 4 games, not three.
Oh, four. Golly.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
So
maybe they beat Florida when I was making this. I can't remember.
interesting. Well, I mean, yeah, you have them losing to Vanderbilt, then you really don't have. I don't know. Not much. I guess not much to be said about that. I think I'm a little bit higher in Missouri. I got them going 6-6. Dang, 2-6.
Where can you find 6 games?
I think they could easily win their first five, and then they probably beat South Carolina.
I don't think they beat Kansas State. Kansas State's one of those schools that they've never been like a powerhouse, but the past few years they have been a very good team. I mean, they played in the Sugar Bowl last year.
Yeah, that's good and all, but TCU also played in the championship, and we all know how that panned out. But I'm not saying they
They
beat.
beat TCU.
I know, and I'm saying TCU got in the championship. I'm saying some teams don't belong where they end up.
TCU had to beat somebody to get there. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not getting into that right now.
All right, but yeah, I got them going 6-6. I think they can beat Kansas State at home too. Let's not forget about the power of that.
Actually, you know what? No, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Why did not TCU not belong there?
Well, because they sucked. I mean, you have a guy named Max Duggan at your quarterback. I mean, there goes your season right there. Who did they? Okay, he shouldn't have been there. Let's see, who did they barely beat? I honestly can't remember. They barely beat someone. I mean, they literally they had to, put the power to use. And the C in TCU, they really had to pull that out in order to get one of their wins. I can't remember. I feel like they had to do that to get most of their wins actually. Which, I mean, good for you. If you're a good clutch team, you can beat.
You talking about Baylor?
I can't remember. They kicked a field goal at the last second. Everyone was excited because they were finally going to lose and show how fraudulent they actually were. But then they kicked the field goal and ended up winning.
Great teams find ways to win.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Luck is on the side of too many teams, though. TCU.
I think that game you're talking about is Baylor, though.
I have no idea. I really have no idea.
However, they got put in the playoffs. If they didn't deserve to be there, Michigan would have beaten them.
That's fair.
I just can't see an avenue to where you say that TCU should not have deserved to be in the championship. Now, let me rephrase that. TCU absolutely should have been in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that, I don't think. Can you find a more deserving team to be in the playoffs?
I thought there was doubt, though, at the time.
I don't think there was. I mean, they were the number 3 team. No, number 2 team, I'm sorry.
How?
No.
Who?
Michigan had been the number 2 team. What is... Yeah, no. TCU was number 3 team. And Ohio State
What conference is TCU
team.
in?
The Big 12.
Oh, my God. Who's notable in the Big 12?
Oklahoma State, Kansas State.
Okay, you can stop.
Hold on. No. I know you're not snickering at Oklahoma, one of the most prestigious college football programs.
Where they finished last season? What was their record?
Okay, good point. 6-6 or 6-7.
So then that shows. I mean, hey, even LSU with last year's Ed Orgeron, one of the most prestigious programs in the NCAA. So if you want to pull out that argument,
they also beat Texas.
Yeah.
What, man? What's wrong with Texas?
A lot of things.
Okay, whatever. We'll get into that later. However, undefeated regular season did drop the Big 12 title game to Kansas State by field goal in overtime. However, they did play in their conference championship, unlike Ohio State. So I don't think there was any doubt to believe that they deserve to be in.
The real championship was Georgia versus Ohio State.
I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, the consolation game was after, which was Georgia. Georgia and TCU. I mean, that was probably the worst. I mean,
the game itself was horrible.
Because TCU shouldn't have been there. It should have been someone more deserving. Granted, I know you've
like who, Michigan?
I mean, yeah, honestly.
Who? Oh yeah, we'll beat TCU.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I mean,
don't give up a million points.
Obviously, the playoffs are meant to be like that. But man,
don't give up a million points, and you can play Michigan. I mean, Michigan can play Georgia if they want. Who's to say they would have done any
Who
better?
did TCU have on their offense last year? Quentin Johnson
Yes,
and
and Kendra Miller.
okay, not familiar with that person.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So I have the final college football playoff rankings right in front of me. Are you going to put a 10-2 Alabama with losses to Tennessee and LSU over
No,
TCU? And they didn't play in the conference championship game.
no.
Well, they were number 5.
Okay.
So who are you going to put in over TCU?
Who's number 6?
And if you put Tennessee,
Okay. Who's number 7?
Clemson,
Okay, they sucked. Damn. So last year was just a crappy year for college football.
I'm not going to lie, it kind of was. There were a lot of
That sucks.
teams that started off great, like Tennessee, and then they just faded. I mean, Tennessee got drilled by South Carolina.
The highlight of last season was the Rose Bowl.
It was a good Rose Bowl, wasn't it?
It was. If that's the
And
game I'm thinking of.
the two semifinal games were also a lot of fun to
Yes.
watch. Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan, TCU.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess putting it like that, then yes, I guess TCU deserved to be there, but that is such an unfortunate thing that college football is in the state that it was last season, that they were the only option to be in
Yeah,
that
look, I'll
position.
agree with that. See, that's something that I can agree with. But when people now, I mean, I've had this debate with a guy I ride to work with all the time. He says the TCU shouldn't have been there either. That's my argument. I said, well, why did they deserve to be there? Look at the other teams. They deserve to be there. They beat Michigan. They earned it. They earned the butt whooping.
I mean, I don't know if you're Alabama. Yeah, if LSU didn't lose to Texas A&M, I may could have argued that Bama deserved to be there more than TCU.
They have a common opponent, right?
TCU and Bama?
Uh, TCU and
Oh,
Texas.
TCU.
I mean, TCU and Bama. They
Oh,
both played Texas.
okay.
TCU beat them 17-10. Bama beat them 2019 on a last second field goal.
Nice. Well, I guess good for TCU then. I definitely don't think they're going to be returning to glory like that this season.
No, I think they lost a lot. Now they did get a pretty good offensive coordinator and Kendall Briles, scum of the earth kind of guy, but great offensive mind.
Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, so with that being said, so you have Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Florida as your 765.
Yep.
So you had Missouri going with 4 wins?
Yep, 4-8.
Dang. Yeah, you got me for being low in Florida. I got you for being low in Missouri.
Yeah,
Granted,
I'm low on both.
fair
So
enough. Yeah, I mean, I am too at the end of the day compared to the rest of the division and really the rest of the conference. Yeah, I don't think they really have the best offense. I think their defense, though, minus the D line, is very, very, very solid. I was going to say good, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself here. Their linebackers and their defensive backs are very good. I will say that. I know you touched on a couple players already. And really, the only player on offense they have to hang their hat on is a tackle and a receiver that they got to transfer in. The receiver's a transfer, not the tackle. Javon Foster, left tackle, and Theo Weiss Jr., transfer senior, coming in hot. Pause.
yeah, I have Kentucky at number 4. I'm a little lower on them than some people.
That's fair.
They obviously underperformed with Will Levis last year. I think they're going to underperform with Devin Leary again this year. He went 118 of 193 for 1,265 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions in a shortened season due to injury. Is he a true playmaker or is he just a game manager? I don't know. I guess that's what we'll see. They got some guys on their team though. Deion Walker, I think he's their only all SEC preseason pick. 4.5 tackles for loss with 1 sack. Kenny Groen into his sophomore year. And Barry and Brown, 50 catches, 628 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I think they're projecting a pretty big jump for him.
Yeah, I have Kentucky at number 3. I have them going 8-4, 4-4. which I think we actually talked about before we got on here. But I agree with everything you said. I also believe their defense is going to be what kind of cost them this season. Personally, I think they outperform what they're expected to, but I think at the end of the day, sometimes their talent's just gonna there's gonna be a pretty big discrepancy, especially whenever your defensive backs just blow. Um, Putting it lightly. Um,
I'm just not high on Mark Stoops.
yeah, I mean, and that's fair too. I mean, that's more than
I
fair.
just don't. I mean, what has he done? He had like one really, really good
Hmm.
year in 21. Since then, he hadn't
Yeah, it's
done
hard not to
much.
look at past performance as a benchmark for what you expect of teams. So I'm with you on that. And I mean, I definitely don't think they're going to be like a top competitor. I mean, obviously, in their division, they're just not going to be a top competitor, even if everything goes right for them this season. But yeah, you mentioned
Yeah, I mean, the top two teams in their division are obviously pretty
right,
good.
yeah, and then like you said, I mean, really, the only player of note on their team is JJ Weaver. I mean, their defense, I should say. Um, I think their skill positions on the offensive side are pretty solid. Actually, I'd say pretty good. Minus the tight end, I think they got some. Hate to use the word potential. That's just like using the word heart in the UFC. Oh, he's got a lot of heart, Joe.
I think in college football, potential is a lot. It means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it can win you games that you're not supposed to win. I will say that.
Yep. Look at A&M versus LSU last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, Flashbacks. No, but I mean, I think they're before their bye, which is. Hold on, I'm sorry. I think someone's cutting grass at 8 o'clock. Do you hear that? Do you hear that?
No, I
Okay,
don't hear
okay.
it.
Well, I'm
No,
going to
I
keep
don't. I don't
talking
hear
then.
it.
I'm going to keep talking. We won't strike that from the
All
tape.
right.
We'll just
49
no, we're
05.
not striking that. We're going to keep it in there because this is
Okay.
just insane to me. I want everyone else to hear it. I mean, even I know you said you can't hear it, but I mean, if you can hear it, this is crazy. Golly, dude. Anyways, um, I think they have a pretty first half. I'm sorry, pretty easy first half of their schedule. I think they're going to blow by their first five opponents. I say blow by. They're going to blow by their first four opponents, and then they got Florida. That should be a fun game. Georgia, not so much of a fun game for Kentucky. And then they return against Missouri. Then they got their break. So I think they could very possibly go 6-1 in that stretch, and then they could very possibly lose the next 5 games. But I do have them
Yeah.
edging one out against South Carolina. That's a game I could see going either way, especially having to play that game away. And I know we were talking about potential, which is, I guess, a good segue for South Carolina if you were through talking about Kentucky, or if you have any final thoughts.
No, but I do have South Carolina at 3. I guess we flip flopped our, not our bottom two, but the second, not the
Yeah,
number
the middle of the
last.
pack. Yeah, the middle of the pack. We seem to
Yeah,
have some.
differing opinions on, but I think they're all
Yeah, so we
close.
seem to agree on a lot of
Um,
things about the teams, but then there's at the end of the day, I guess we disagree on where they're going to finish, which I mean can't is to be
yep.
expected because, like I said, I mean they're going to have all four of these teams are going to have close games, and like I was saying earlier, they're going to win games they shouldn't win and lose games they shouldn't lose. So as much as Florida could finish sixth in the East, I mean they could easily finish fourth, maybe even third. And the same can be said for Kentucky.
Yep.
I have them finishing third, going 8-4, 4-4. They could easily go 6-6. 2-6 in the conference play. So I mean, like I said, just a lot to be seen still.
Yeah. Well, with South Carolina, I think they're very similar to Kentucky in a sense where their defense is not very good. Um, their offense has the potential to be great. Spencer Rattler, so he's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde for me. I mean, 264 for 399 on the year, 3,026 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Like I was saying earlier with Mertz, you would like to see those interception and touchdown ratio a little bit better. But 3,026 yards, he can unload it. I mean, you saw times last year, like against Tennessee, where he just lit it up.
That was
Um,
fun.
yeah, it was really fun. I think this year he has some targets to throw to, like Nicholas Harbor. I'm interested to see how they utilize him. He's a 6'5", 225 pounds track star in high school. Um, I don't know if they're going to use him as a tight end, wide receiver.
Hmm.
He even played some D end in the high
Nice.
school.
You think he's going to get playing time this year?
So
Well, a
I'm not
significant
sure.
playing time, I should say.
I think they lost a lot of targets, so I think he will.
Okay.
Maybe not at the beginning of the year, but towards the end. So I think he could be a significant player, impact player, if you will. But my biggest thing with Spencer Rattler is he needs to know that it's not a one man show. He needs to not try to do too much. He needs to work on some decision making. I think the talent's there, but I'm sure everybody's seen the video of him in high school. He's pretty arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it all hinges on him. But my questions for the team are: who steps up at wide receiver, and could Rattler be good Rattler, or is he going to be a bad Rattler? My overall prediction for him is 9-3. Losses to Tennessee, Clemson, and A&M. I know you don't hear Georgia on there. It's not because I think they're better than Georgia, but I think Georgia's just due for a loss, and I'm just kind of throwing my shot out there.
That's fair.
Everybody
No.
laughed when people called them beating Tennessee last year too. So I you know what? I'm just gonna. I'm not real confident in that, but
Yeah, there's
like
one or
Shane
two
Beamer.
teams you're going to be higher on than I'd say about 90% of the people that are studying this. So South Carolina is your team. I think for me, Maryland's that team for me. I believe we covered.
Mm.
Did we cover them already? It's been
Yeah.
It's been just a whirlwind. You just never know. And plus, I got this lawnmower next door, just distracting me. So that's kind of hard to think what's going on. But I have them. I think I got them. I think they can eke out 7 wins. I mean, I'm not opposed to the whole 9-win thing. Obviously, that hinges on Georgia. And speaking of hinging, I know you mentioned Spencer Rattler earlier. You hear coaches say it all the time, but it's just 3 words is reel it in. I feel like if he can do that, he can. Let me think.
Dude,
He
if he
could probably
did
be the
that,
top
they
quarterback.
literally.
Sorry, I was
Yeah.
going to say the top quarterback in the
I mean,
SEC.
he was a first round draft lock after his freshman year or sophomore year at Oklahoma, and then just fell off a cliff.
Right? Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said, they have some really good offensive talent, so they got that going for them as a team. I will say their defense is not what you want to see in a team, especially if you think they're going to beat Georgia. That's also going to hinge on South Carolina's defense stepping up as much as it is their offense stepping up. And I personally don't see that happening. I think they got one guy in every position that is their guy, maybe minus linebacker. I'm really not sure they have a good linebacker or a great linebacker, I should say.
You need a linebacker.
Yeah, and I was about to say that's about 98% of the defenses in the country that your captain comes from your linebacker position. That's essentially the quarterback of the defense. But yeah, I don't know. With that being said, I think I got them. Let me look at their schedule. I think I'd probably have them be like say going 7-5, being able to. They could go 6-6 or 8-4, in my opinion. And I said just one of those teams. But obviously, I think key losses will probably be obviously Georgia, Tennessee. I don't know. I'm not sure if they can get 8 wins. Actually, they know they could. They could obviously get a sneaky win anywhere. I think it's going to be a tough game against Mississippi State. I think you can probably maybe pull out a sneaky win. I don't think Tennessee. I think you had Tennessee was a last year thing. It's they're going to be on it. They're going to be on it this season.
They're going to be hungry.
Exactly. They're going to be on it this season. I think your key losses will probably be against North Carolina, Clemson.
You have them losing to North Carolina?
I think it's going to be a good game.
It's going to be a good game.
I will say that much.
It's one they could definitely lose.
Yes, it's one they could definitely win. So, mark that down as a game to watch out for. But we can move on to your number 2 and number 1 team if you.
I'm assuming we're going to have
this one. This one we'll probably agree on. Yes, Georgia and then Tennessee. Yeah, Georgia at number 2.
Tennessee at 2.
Georgia at number 2.
Tennessee at 2.
Georgia. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I have Tennessee number 2 and Georgia number 1.
I think Tennessee could win it. Obviously, odds aren't in their favor. Georgia's a juggernaut right now. But it all hinges on somebody like Joe Milton. I mean, that dude has crazy intangibles. He's kind of like an AR-15 type of player in the sense of
Austin
like you can't
Reeves?
teach him the things he has. No, Anthony
Oh,
Richardson. Um, but can he maximize the
like
potential? I
what would
think
you
in
say?
Josh Heupel's offensive system, he can. Jalen Wright, 146 carries for 875 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. I think he's vital to that offense. I think Brew McCoy is going to have a huge year. 52 catches for 667 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. He's huge. I'm going to look for him to be the leading pass catcher of that team. Some questions I have for them is defense and what's Milton going to be? Is he going to be great or is he going to be average? Overall prediction for him, I'm going to have him 10-2 with losses to Alabama and Georgia.
Nice. Wait, so hold on. I have him going 9-3, but I'm trying to think of who I have as their
You probably have him losing though. Oh, never mind.
Kentucky, maybe
Maybe
Florida, maybe. Like I don't know.
UTSA,
Yeah, yeah,
A&M.
maybe. Well, that just goes to show they have. I wouldn't say they have like a super tough schedule compared to some of these other teams, but they do
I
have
think
a
Ole Miss has the worst schedule
yeah.
in
As I
the
said, they
SEC.
do have a pretty tough schedule. Tennessee, I mean, Tennessee has a pretty tough schedule. Grant, I think you're going to open it. You're going to start the season strong. It wouldn't surprise me if you can string 6 wins in a row. Wouldn't surprise me if you go
Yep.
4-2 in that stretch. And then obviously you play Alabama late in October at
Yeah,
Alabama.
Alabama's trying to get their get back.
Yes, and then Georgia. That's going to be a closer game than I think many people were going to be expecting. And
I agree.
yeah, I think is Tennessee one of the faster teams out there? Not speed, but I just mean their pace. I
Yes,
feel like
100%.
they may be
I
the
think they're probably even faster than Ole Miss.
um, they may they may have the best pace. I say best pace. They may have the fastest pace. Um,
So I don't know if did you watch UCF like 3-4 years ago?
back whenever they're
Not the year they beat Auburn, but like the year I think it might have been the year after that.
so not their
No,
self-proclaimed
the year
championship
after.
year.
No, 2 years after that.
Okay,
2 years after, like the year after they lost to LSU in the
I'm gonna say
Fiesta Bowl.
no then.
So they had an explosive offense, terrible defense, and the Tennessee's head coach was the coach of that team.
Oh, I guess it makes sense now.
Yep. So kind of the same, but better athletes. Bad defense, great offense, better athletes than he had at UCF.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I guess to sum it up, I got Tennessee going 9-3, 5-3 in conference play, and we can move on to Georgia, which is obviously number one in both of our East Division predictions for the SEC. Sounds like you got them going 11-1, or do you have them going 10-2?
Have them going
Okay.
11-1. I think they're just kind of due for a loss. Like I said, I'm not confident with saying South Carolina beats them, but I think they're a team that could potentially just kind of calling it. We'll see. I'm not real confident in it. I mean, it could be 70-0 by halftime,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll see. Brock Bowers is my best player on that team, by the way. Probably one of the best college tight ends of all time. Just insane talent at the tight end position for him. Carson Beck, that's the quarterback. I'm going to see if he can step up. I mean, he's super talented. Lad McConkey, I don't think he's the most talented player on that team, but I think he is very. I mean, he's
What a
obviously very
name.
talented, but yeah, he's kind of their catalyst for the wide receivers. So look for him to be a huge part of that offense next year. Questions for the team? It's kind of hard to find questions for this team, but they do have a new quarterback. They have a new offensive coordinator. We'll see how they transition there.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But other than that, I don't really
Yeah,
have many
I
questions.
don't have much to say about Georgia either. I mean, obviously they're going to be a great team. I'd be shocked if they didn't make the playoffs, and I think they're heavy.
Yep.
I think they're heavy favorites to three-peat this year for good reason. Defense solid as always. it's hard to pick out a weak point on that defense. Obviously, you can cherry pick certain players, but as a defensive unit,
Kirby Smart going to be going to coach
mm-hmm.
him up. I mean,
Yes.
he's built a monster.
Yes, unfortunate for the rest of the SEC, but hey, that's the state. That's the state you're in now. But I mean, like you said, I mean, it's going to be on Carson Beck to step up, and I mean, you never know. I mean, maybe even though this offense has a bunch of weapons, maybe they'll hit some hiccups along the way. They may go 3 or 4 drives without scoring, and then all of a sudden, like another team can sneak in, like i.e., your South Carolina. You never know; they could sneak in and get some shots in there. I think maybe
Missouri almost beat them last year.
I say you never know. That's the beauty about college football. I said, I mean, maybe you can catch Georgia slipping earlier in the season, but we're going to rely on UT Martin and Ball State to catch them slipping. No, I wouldn't even.
Kind of struggled against Kent State last year.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. Who knows? Maybe UAB can pull out the upset. Maybe they'll return. Who's the running back's name? I mean, dude was a beast.
He didn't return. I believe he.
Yeah, I know. I can't think of his name. I'm just saying, like, he's going to return under an alias. Kind of like Bojuro returning.
Bojuro
returning to LSU. I'm sorry, getting recruited to LSU.
Yeah, get it right.
Remarcus Jussel.
Man, why are we recruiting this guy? He has a bum calf already.
But yeah, not much.
Well, if you like, we can.
Yeah, I was about to say not much to be said about Georgia. Top in the East. I think worst case scenario, you finish first in the East Division. Sucks for you, boo-hoo. But we'll move on to the West. Starting at the bottom, Peyton. I'm curious to hear who you have because I'm imagining one of two teams. I'm interested to see which one.
Does either of them rhyme with Mississippi State?
I mean, yes. One of them rhymes. Yes, one of them rhymes with Mississippi Mate, and the other one rhymes with Carburn.
Frauburn.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are my bottom two teams as well. Auburn at 6, Mississippi State at 7. Mississippi State. I'm just not sold on Arnett as the head coach. Mike Leach. I'm curious to see what that offense looks like, especially Will Rogers. I mean, he threw the ball 610 times last year. He's not going to do that this year. Threw for almost 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He is one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. Can he return to his sophomore year form? He had 4,700 yards on 74% completion percentage and 36 touchdowns. 74% completion percentage is just unbelievable with the amount of volume that he has in attempts. Jaden Wally will be, I think they're one of their better pass catchers. 34 receptions last year, 348 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Tulu Griffin, another one, 40 receptions for 502 yards and 4 touchdowns. Obviously, pass catchers, they kind of lost some guys. They lost Ra Thomas to Georgia.
What a name.
I think he was probably going to be, yeah. He was probably going to be their better guy, but obviously they couldn't hang on to him. The one wild card I have for them is I wonder how they're going to come out and play for Mike Leach. When somebody passes away, people are motivated to play better. Obviously, Coach Leach passed away shortly thereafter last season. Actually, I want to say before Mississippi State's bowl game due to medical emergency, heart attack, it sounds like. Just a horrible situation. Mike Leach was one of the more well-known, well-respected coaches in the game of college football. Really a pioneer for the air raid offense. So rest in peace, Coach Leach. You will be missed. Although I do have your team at 5-7 this year. I'm sorry. And then for Auburn, kind of the same. I have them at 6-6. Both of these teams could easily flip. For notable players for Auburn, I have Robbie Ashford, Coy Moore, and Jarquez Hunter. Robbie Ashford, I mean, he has horrible accuracy and he throws a lot of interceptions compared to touchdowns. He had 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Obviously, 50-50 is not what you want as a quarterback. The tools are there, though, but can Hugh Freeze make it work? Coy Moore has been kind of disappointing so far in his career. Last year, he had 20 catches for 314 yards and 1 touchdown. Obviously, an LSU legend for throwing the interception to Harold Perkins, allowing LSU to win that game last year. Um, let's not forget, though, before the year, he did say he was better than Kayshon Boutte. Now, Kayshon Boutte did not have the greatest year, but Coy Moore has not even come close to putting up the numbers Kayshon did in his freshman or sophomore year. So let's see. We'll see about that. Questions for them. Hugh Freeze obviously is going to make an impact, but is it going to be immediate? And how effective will it be? And then with Jarquez Hunter, like, is he even going to be available? I don't know. So I have them going 6-6.
Yeah, and that's fair for both teams. I mean, honestly, for both teams, you both go 6-6, both 2-6 in conference play. Yeah, I think they can both be flipped. I mean, I have Auburn at 7, Mississippi State at 6, but that's just me. Like, I could have flipped a coin or put them in alphabetical order, and it wouldn't have affected really anything I think about either of them. I think you hit the nail on the head with both of them. So yeah, not much to be said. If you want to move on to,
Yep. So
sorry, go ahead.
who do you have at 5?
I have Arkansas.
Oh, we agree on the West, I guess. So obviously notable court players is their quarterback KJ Jefferson. He had 204 completions on 300 attempts, 2,636 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 158 carries for 640 yards and 9 touchdowns. Now that does include sacks. So the carries and yards the carries are up, yards are down for him there in terms of rushing, but he does take care of the football, and he's a senior. So I think he was a little bit disappointing last year for Arkansas. I think they were expecting him to be a little bit better. Still not bad, obviously, better than anybody that Arkansas has had in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So we'll see how he looks this year. He's paired with Raheem Sanders, who had 222 yards on 1,443 yards on 222 carries. That's 6.5 yards a carry and 10 touchdowns. Really, it was just those two on the ground for them. It is going to be a new offensive system as they're losing Kendall Briles to TCU. Now, the new offensive system is a little bit slower, and it has been a little bit less effective in the recent years. So I'm curious to see how that works in their favor. But on the defensive side of the ball, they have another LSU legend and Dwight McGlothern, Nudie McGlothern, if you will. He had 43 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 10 pass breakups last year. He's by far and away their best secondary player. He's very lengthy. I think he's a great player overall. But like I said, I'm more curious on the offensive side. How's the offensive coordinator system going to work, and what's KJ going to look like? Overall, I have them 7-5 with losses to LSU, A&M, Bama, Florida, and Auburn.
Oh damn! All right, we got the same schedule projection then. Yeah, 7-5 is their win total for me, and I think you touched on all the points that I had. I definitely have their offense as their strong point. Strong point maybe is not the word I'm looking for, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. Their offense is definitely going to be the strong suit this year. Defense, not so much. Like you said, McGlothern is probably the only notable guy in their defense. Okay, they had a transfer, John Morgan in third. He should be pretty solid as well.
Trey Morgan? I thought he played baseball for LSU.
John.
Yeah, that's Trey Morgan's real name. Is John Morgan the third?
No, he moved on. He signed with
John Edward Morgan, if you will.
No, I won't. Thank you, John. Yeah. Anyways, solid transfer, but that's about all they got going on their defense. Their defense is going to be the downfall of this team, if there is going to be a downfall. But I mean, I definitely think they'll go bowling this season. I have no doubts about that. So yeah, I mean that's about where I have Arkansas and 4. Maybe we'll differ here because I can see 4 and 3 being flipped. I have Ole Miss at 4.
As I do as well. So notable players for Ole Miss. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be, but I'll say Jackson Dart / Walker Howard / Spencer Sanders. Dart last year was 226 for 362 yards, 2,974 yards, 362 attempts, 226 completions, 2,974 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 11 picks. It was a little bit more effective on the ground than I think through the air. I mean, 20 touchdowns or 11 picks. What isn't the greatest? Hot on his heels is Spencer Sanders, the transfer from Oklahoma State, starting quarterback for them last year and the year before when they went to the Big 12 championship. Last year he was 212 for 368 for 2,600 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 9 picks. Howard, very, very talented, another LSU legend. Son of former All-American Jamie Howard. Kind of got passed up by Nussmeier and Daniels at LSU last year, decided to transfer out. A lot of rumors that he wasn't developing like they thought he would. Lane Kiffin took the chance on him. We'll see how he pans out. I don't think he starts this year. I don't think he plays much. I think it's definitely going to be between Dart and Sanders. I think Dart gets the start on opening day. Another guy for him, Quinshon Judkins. Unbelievable running back for him. 274 carries, 1,567 yards for 5.7 yards per carry. 16 touchdowns last year. Now, he did have Zach Evans to complement him. He does not have him this year. We'll see how he does there. And then Zachary Franklin, the wide receiver transfer from UTSA, had 94 catches for 1,136 yards and 15 touchdowns last year there. We'll see how he performs in the SEC.
Yeah.
Defensively, under Lane Kiffin, I'm just not sold on Lane defensively as a coach. I think he goes for it in pretty sketchy situations like 4th and 1 from his own 22-yard line. He'll go for it, not get it, set the opponent up with a short field. Now they're replacing 2 solid wide receivers and great running back on offense too. So maybe he'll be a little bit more conservative. I don't know. Probably not knowing Lane Kiffin. If you know Lane Kiffin, he's elite on Twitter. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said he was an elite head coach. This year, I've grown up a little bit and realized that he's not the greatest head coach. I think he's pretty much capped Ole Miss. I don't think Ole Miss is going to be any better than they were last year, this year, 2 years ago. I don't think they will be. I could be wrong, but some notable games I have for them. They play a pretty tough schedule. They play at Tulane, at Bama, versus LSU, versus Arkansas, versus A&M, at Georgia, and at Mississippi State, which is always I know State's finished dead last for me, but it is a rivalry game. The Egg Bowl is always weird. I have them going 8-4 with losses to Bama, LSU, A&M, and Georgia.
Yeah, I do as well as far as the rankings go. And pretty much I think their offense, once again, another team that their offense is definitely going to be their strong suit. I think they got pretty much some solid returning production, probably some of the best in the NCAA. And those that aren't returning, their positions are being filled by some really solid transfers. So I think their offense is going to be good at worst. Defense should have a pretty solid defense too. They get some good all-around play in all their position groups. The linebacker group I'd say the linebackers will probably be lacking most of all, but that's not to say they're going to suck. I think they're going to be good. But once again, it's a curse of the schedule gods. It's not in their favor, and I have them going 8-4 as well. And if we move on, I'm assuming we're both going to we may go 7 for 7 matching here. I'm assuming you have Texas A&M.
Well, I think we had
Auburn
and
Mississippi State flipped, but I mean, that we're going to count that.
Both of those teams could go either way.
It was really 50-50 on them. I just put down whatever team, with the team that came first to mind. I just put Auburn.
So, hey, being a Tulane guy, real quick, do you have them beating Tulane or losing to
Tulane? I got Tulane winning. I can't.
Do you really?
I can't. I mean, I think my brain says Ole Miss.
I think Michael Pratt's good.
Yeah, my brain says Ole Miss. My heart says Tulane, especially after seeing their bowl game performance. I mean, it's just like, it's just something to behold. I believe Tulane's returning a lot of production.
Sajay Jeers?
Yes. Yes. We have a nice recruit. He's got a solid mustache. Doesn't look fake at all. Sajay Tears. Pretty solid guy.
Tears.
But
Spy tears.
but I mean, it was kind of it was a nice little 1-2 punch with him and Pratt. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think that's going to be definitely a good game, and it's going to help Tulane. If I'm not, Tulane won that game last season at Ole Miss, I believe. I believe that's how it went down.
Maybe.
And I know they play
Uh,
at Tulane this year, so
yes.
it was a close game last season
Which
too, if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
yeah, most of Ole Miss's games were.
yeah, but
Did they play last year?
or was it the year before?
Might have been the year
Oh,
before.
okay. I
I
do.
don't
I
think they
do
played
remember the
last year.
game. Not like I was there. I just remember the game because I remember thinking, "Holy crap!" Like Tulane's going to beat Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is one of those teams though that's kind of like fool's gold. They're going to be flashy. They're going to look good against worse competition, but when it comes to playing the LSU's, Alabama's, and M's, it's going to look a little clunky, and the other teams can sometimes out talent them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be watching them. Not like super closely this year, but I'll be watching them because they are an interesting team. They're going to be an interesting team to say the least.
Well, yeah, they have Lane Kiffin as their
Yeah.
head
So,
coach.
and like you said, I mean, some questionable decisions will always be made by him. So, just for entertainment purposes solely, it's should be fun to watch if you can. But
I need somebody to throw another golf ball at him. Moving on. Yes, I do have Texas A&M at 3.
mhm.
I think they are absolutely loaded everywhere. Kind of like Georgia. I don't think they're as well coached, but they are absolutely stacked everywhere. It's hard to even pick just 3 notable players, but I did. I picked Evan Stewart, who was a freshman last year, Connor Weigman, who was a freshman last year, and Bryce Foster, who was a freshman last year. So that 2022 class was unbelievable. I think a lot of them are going to grow up this year and be great. Still think they're young, so I'm not going to give them number 2 or number 1 in the West, but I think they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. Petrino steps in as the offensive coordinator. It's going to be intriguing to me to see how much Jimbo allows him to call plays. Being that Jimbo Fisher is offensive guy himself, but I do think the game has kind of passed Jimbo by. But yeah, I think they're 9-3 with losses to Tennessee, Bama, and LSU.
All right. So you think they beat Miami?
Yeah, I do. I'm not sold on Miami. It is a toss-up
Yes, I think
game.
it'll be a close
So
game.
is South Carolina for me.
Yep, and that's fair too. Um, and then you said they have losses to Ole Miss, LSU, and Bama. Tennessee,
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 Bama, and
Bama, and
LSU.
LSU. Okay, gotcha. All right, yeah, I think that's fair. I think this team could very well. I'm going to have them kind of average out at 8-4. I think they're going to drop one of Miami or Ole Miss. I doubt they'll drop both of them. Could be very possible. But other than that, so I think they do have an avenue to go 9-3. I realistically have them going 8-4. Worst case scenario, they'll go 7-5. But I think that's a very, very, very low for this team. I mean, that's just like that should be kind of like depression mode for this team.
Yeah.
Very solid all around. Um, I think they certainly have their weak points. To be honest, not really sold on the running back situation.
No, they did lose Devon A. Shane last year. I do think they reload though. They signed the number 1 running back in the class this past year, so I would look for him to make an immediate impact. Um, like I said, they just got loads of talent coming in. It's just, can they maximize that? Can they use the talent?
Mm-hmm.
Or does Jimbo get in his own way again? I mean, there's legitimately a shot that they could go 12-0 and win the West. I don't think that's likely. Obviously, I have them at 9-3, but they're kind of a sleeping giant. As much as I hate to say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'd definitely be tough for them to. Personally, I'd be shocked if they get 10 wins. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, yeah, if they get 10 wins and their only losses are to Bama and LSU, that's probably going to how it's going to pan out, or maybe Bama and Tennessee. Um, I don't know. You
Yep.
play Bama at home this year. I mean, that's a pretty solid advantage. But at the same time, you're playing Bama. You play LSU away. That's going to suck. But
When did they play
they
Bama?
play Bama the beginning of October. That will be their sixth game. No, I'm sorry. Yes, their sixth game.
It's interesting because I think Bama has. Oh, I'll get to that. I'll get to that.
All right. What is that? Is that a segue to your number two team, possibly?
Sadly, it's not.
Oh, okay.
So you know who I have it to? LSU. Um, I do. I do look for kind of a regression this year. Not incredible. Like not an incredible regression. Actually, record wise, I don't think they regress, but um, I think they lose to Bama partly because that game is at Bama. Um, they could easily win that game too, though. So notable players for them. I'm about to drool over some players. Malik Neighbors, 72 catches, 1,017 yards, and 3 touchdowns last year. Expect some growth there. He's going to be that dude. He is definitely one of the best receivers in the SEC. He showed that towards the end of last year. Once that chemistry with Jaden Daniels kind of grew a little bit. And then even in the SEC championship game with Garrett Nussmeier, I mean, he looked fantastic. Garrett Nussmeier looked fantastic, and most of that is because of Malik Neighbors. I remember in fall camp last year, everybody was like, "Well, who's gonna guard?" Y'all talking about Kayshawn Booty? Who's gonna guard Malik Neighbors? Who's gonna guard Malik Neighbors? Um, and that is absolutely true. Malik Neighbors is an incredible talent. So glad that we flipped him from. I think we flipped him from Mississippi State. So thank God we did that. Um, Sometimes he can struggle to create some separation, but I think he's going to work through that. I think we got our good. Cortez Hankton's a good wide receiver coach. I think he's going to work on that with Malik, and they're going to get that taken care of. Next, Harold Perkins Jr., my favorite player on the team. He had 72 total tackles last year, 13 of which were for loss, and 7.5 sacks. As a true freshman who didn't even play at the beginning of the year, he had to work. He had to be worked into the lineup. Didn't even have a true position. This year he's playing middle linebacker alongside Omar Spates. He is an unbelievable talent. Flipping him from A&M was the best thing that's ever happened in my life. Love Harold Perkins. Just an unreal talent. And then Jaden Daniels, he was 266 for 388 last year with 2,900 yards and 17 touchdowns as a passer. Had 186 carries, 885 yards, and 11 touchdowns as a runner. Of course, that includes sacks as well. He's going to be entering his second year in the offensive system under Mike Denbrock. I think you see some growth from him. And my question for him, though, is can he be more aggressive? Nuss is right behind him. He's pushing him. People like Nuss. Nuss is a gunslinger. He's going to throw in interceptions, but he's going to make some plays. Obviously, you saw that in the SEC championship game, and I think Jaden Daniels saw that. Going to the spring game for LSU this past April, Jaden looked really good. He looked like he was going to try to shoot the ball downfield a little bit more, which I think was a big problem with the offense last year, being that we have some studs on the outside at LSU. Give those guys some chances to work. I mean, you saw what happened last time a quarterback let them go down the field, make plays. They won a national championship with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. So, who, by the way, looked kind of average the year before because they didn't have the ball thrown downfield to them. That's all I got to say there. My question marks for LSU, though, is going to be the defensive line and the secondary. They kind of solidified both with the portal. They did that last year as well. My question is just, is it going to work 2 years in a row? I mean, I think Matt House is a great defensive coordinator, especially with linebackers. But building a team with a portal is always kind of sketchy to me. So we shall see. My overall prediction, though, is 10-2 with losses to Florida State and Alabama.
All right, that's a fair assessment of our hometown team. Um, I do have them number one, by the way, over Bama. I have way too many question marks for Alabama for me to comfortably put them
I do
at.
too, but I think they get them. I think they get them taken care of before the LSU game. That's the only. If the Alabama LSU game was in September or October, I think LSU wins. But being that it's in November, I think Alabama figures some things out.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the LSU game may be the least of Alabama's worries to start out the season. But anyway, I'll get there. I'll get there later. Talking about LSU right now. I think they have the best quarterback in the SEC. I'll go ahead and say it. The rest of the offense,
Who, Garrett Nussmeier?
yeah, the rest of the offense, a lot to be desired. I think the offensive line is okay.
It's going to be a strong point this year for the first time in I don't know how long.
You-
Brian Kelly's really done a great job revamping the offensive line.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, if I'm a defense, I'm doing one thing and one thing only. I'm attacking the interior of that offensive line.
Well, you say that, but was it Lance Hurd coming in? Emory Jones is going to move to the inside. Garrett Dellinger will be back to full health. I think the interior and Miles Frazier's going to be on the inside. That O line is going to be pretty good this year.
That does nothing for me. I think. I think even Mississippi State's got a really solid D line. I think they could easily get. They're probably going to give LSU fits this year, if I'm being honest, on that. In the trenches. I'm not really sold on LSU's O line. That's probably my only question mark I really have for them, just because they're returning so much production. Probably some of the best in college football. I mean, especially the offense. They're not really losing much. Who's the wide receiver? I'm sorry, I can't think of his name. Booty. Yeah.
Ass.
You're not. If that's all you're losing, boo freaking who.
They lost Jeray Jenkins too.
Once again, that does nothing for me. That doesn't.
He wasn't
me.
a big contributor, but it seemed like anytime somebody was in like a clutch situation, he showed up.
Okay, I would say the receivers coming in will probably fill in their spots seamlessly. I mean, they're going to give the same, if not better, production. Defense solid. You already covered that. I'm not really going to bother. I think the defense you really shouldn't be worried about that if you're LSU, and that's why I got them number one. I mean, I don't really have LSU going number one based on their own talent. I think I have LSU going number one based on their own talent, along with the question marks of what your number one team is, and that's Alabama.
As much as it pains me to say it, I do have Alabama at one. Cannot stand these dudes, but they are my number one SEC team, SEC West team, I should say. That now I do have them going with the same record as LSU, but obviously with a win over LSU, they would win the West. So 10-2 with losses to Texas and Tennessee. Some notable players for him: Kool-Aid McKinstry, one of the better corner, if not the best cornerback in college football. He had 15 pass breakups last year and a quarterback rating of 59 when he was targeted. And that's great. If y'all don't know, he does tend to get beat deep at times, and I think that's going to give him trouble against Tennessee. That's mainly the reason I have them losing to Tennessee. No. They beat Tennessee. No, I haven't beaten Tennessee. 11-1 with a loss to Texas. Dallas Turner, edge, 8.5 sacks his freshman year. He went down to 4 his sophomore year. I think that's a little bit concerning, but I do think he gets back to form. He off the edge, he runs a 4.45 40, which is insane for an edge. The best pass catcher, though, I have a lot of question marks about their pass catchers. Malik Benson, 59 catches for 977 yards and 10 touchdowns last year at a JUCO, though. And I'm not trying to put down on JUCOs, but it's not the SEC. I'm not expecting their quarterback play to be great, at least towards the beginning of the year. So I don't see those numbers being replicated in the SEC. Some question marks for the team. Quarterback, for the first time in forever, we don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. Let me rephrase that. Because we didn't know who the quarterback was going to be between Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, both starters in the NFL. This is the first time that you're like, who's going to actually step up and be the quarterback? Not, which one's going to make it the first mistake?
Yeah. And really for the same reasons that you already said, that's why I don't have them above LSU. I think they've lost too much production, both offensively and defensively. Really, but I'll touch on the defense later because I don't think I think they may have the best defense in college. Um, but and plus an all name team on the defense too. And obvious candidate is Kool-Aid. But with that being said, moving on to the offense, which is a question here. You touched on it, quarterback. That's a pretty huge position to have question marks about. And I can't believe you're questioning an Alabama quarterback or quarterbacks, I should say.
I know.
But that's the point we're at right now. Like I said, you're losing a bunch of production from almost all your positions. Obviously, your running back, Alabama running backs. I mean, they're a breed of their own, so I don't think they'll struggle there, especially with a solid offensive line that they have. I believe they'll probably have the best offensive line in the SEC as well, which should help. Should help all their other positions, obviously, especially their run game. I'm not sure if they're going to rely
Yep.
heavy on that this year. I know they're one of the best. I mean, granted, they're one of the best offenses last year, like a top 10 offense, but their rushing definitely kind of
Yeah.
helped them be a top 10 offense.
Yeah, Jameer Gibbs was a great talent at running back, and you don't have Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Bryce Young left, so
Yeah. And so I said with that, I think you have too many question marks, too many tough games, especially to start out your season. Because imagine you're trying to work out these question marks against Texas. Imagine you're trying to work out these
yeah,
question marks against Ole Miss still a month into the season. And
it's not. It's the first time we've had to question Alabama as a team. Even the O line is not what it usually is. I just don't think Nick Saban and think how hard is it to beat Nick Saban twice?
I mean, it's very difficult. It's very difficult, but
Doable, but difficult.
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I say if Bama lost 2 games in the SEC, like 2 conference games. That's
I could easily see them losing to A&M, LSU, maybe an Ole Miss, heck, even Arkansas.
I mean,
I can see
I
them
could see them
losing those
losing to
games.
5. Legitimately, I could see them losing to about 5 SEC opponents, and it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it would kind of
You're talking
surprise
about
me,
East too.
but it wouldn't surprise me. Um,
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I think after Tennessee beat LSU, and I was at that game last year, I even told you. I said, "Dude, Tennessee beats Bama next week," and he called me crazy. Sure enough, they beat them. But
most overrated team
the
last year.
one thing about Bama, dude, the one thing about Bama is when is the last time they got just blown out? They don't get blown out. It's incredible. Even games that they have no business being in, they just find ways to make it close. And I think that's just Nick Saban using his black magic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying all their losses are going to be blowouts. I definitely don't think. I think if they have 2 losses, it'll be by combined 2 scores. Um,
Yeah,
so, and if they have 3 losses, it'll be by combined by 2 or 3 scores. I don't think they said they're going to be the team where I can like look on the schedule and say, "Oh, that's a definite loss right here." No, they're the team I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, I could see them going undefeated. Will they? I doubt it. But are they going to go 7-5? I doubt that as well. Both could happen,
yeah,
but both would be obviously polar ends of the spectrum that we're on here. And like I said, mainly just due to the fact that it's just as far as production is concerned, you're almost running with a new team on both sides of the ball. But I'm not really sure if I talked about their defense, other than they're going to be one of the best in the country, if not the best. Not much to be said about their defense. I already said it. They're going to no weak points. Good for them. I mean, maybe the defensive backs, but even that's just like that's silly to say, considering, like I said, all name team Kool-Aid McKinstry and then Malachi Moore. Um, I said silly to say that the defensive backs are the weak point, but I mean, other than them two, I mean, I'd be willing to throw to my wide receiver 3 if a transfer is covering them. So I guess I'll
yeah.
put it like that.
But even like in today's game, though, I mean, it's so geared towards offense that I mean, sure, Kool Aid's great and all, and so is Malachi Moore, but are either one of them going to be able to keep Malik Neighbors in check all
Yeah,
game?
exactly. Yeah, and then that's also my point. Bringing it back to Alabama's offense is that that's a crappy side of the ball to have so many question marks about. because,
Yeah.
and I already covered it, so I'm not really going to repeat myself. But college has proven time and time again that offense kind of rules the world, and so um, I'm not really sure. I mean, I'll look through the schedule really quick. I see them going 10-2. Obviously, lost to LSU, and then I think they probably drop a game to like a Tennessee or like an Ole Miss or Texas A&M or even a Kentucky. I'm not saying they're going to lose to all of those teams. I just think I think it's in the cards for them this season to lose. I think LSU is going to be on top of their game. LSU is one of those teams that's definitely riding a high, and I think they should be able to ride it all the way through the season. To be honest.
Yeah. I think the vibes are immaculate in Baton Rouge right now.
Absolutely. I mean, shoot, I put a band on them to make the playoffs. Some pretty solid value. Put two bands.
Can't hide money.
I put two bands on them to win the West, and I put half a band on Daniels to win Heisman. That's just
I put the rights to my house on Garrett Nussmeyer to win the Heisman.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I don't blame you.
Anybody wants a free house?
FanDuel does apparently. But
I think that's all. I think that's all I got, though.
Yeah, that's all I have. It should be a very competitive conference this year. Should be a lot of fun to watch, especially from the upper echelon of both divisions, East and West. Your Georgias, Tennessees, and your LSU's and Bama's, and then your A tier. I was about to say your A tier teams too. I'd consider them the S tiers, and then I consider the A tiers your like Kentucky and your A&Ms, and then like your B tiers, kind of like 4 through 6, and then or really 4 through 7 for the West and 4 through 6 for the East, and then Vanderbilt's just kind of just happy to be in the group photo.
They just hope both teams have fun.
Yes.
But thanks everybody for watching. See you next time.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.